just think of your bowl of water. You know, and just to think about, because this is what we're going to get back into now. We're actually going to start messing with the head, but just think of this bowl of water. Look at the indentations. That's gray matter. The brain is in there with the spinal fluid and all that, and then it goes down into the spine. So when that baby is moving around and now you flatten the head, see, what I would really like is to get a couple of different abnormal plastic head sizes so I can show, or variations I should say, versus, so I can show what the fluid transfer is going to look like. So if you have a skull that is like this when you're moving, so if I'm working on Benjamin, right, just think of all of this going on, and then Diane's working on the vision. So for a child to be here looking, see, jaw up. Now babbling I love, because jaw up and all these variations going on here. I'm with the back of the pelvis, and Diane's bringing up that vision. Do you know what I mean? Look at what your bowl of water, your ping pong balls are doing, and the ping pong balls are here. So all of these things that Diane is doing and I'm doing into that system is giving this person cognitive gains. So if you're only lying down all the time, especially here, and this is the only feedback where you're getting, look at the difference between the amount or the mathematical capabilities of a brain in this position versus a brain in this position. Now, however, if that baby was just flopping their head and doing those things, yeah, there's no way on earth I would bringing them up to sitting. But still, even with the floppy head baby, you know, because I have a child that has a spinal cyst and all of that sort of stuff, that child's still going to get carried, and the mother's going to turn around and look at that child and bring it back again. So it needs to feel in its vestibular, the nasal cavities, the eyeballs, the skull, the lungs, the tissue, the heart within the lungs. All of these things are movements. It's not just where their bum sits on the ground or how our hands touch them. And I really find that's important. Even this little guy right here with the nasal septum, it goes right onto the cranium. You know, that's your vertical vestibular system. And just the way that brain crosses midline and all of that, and when you're sloshing your head back and forth, it makes a big difference in your neurofeedback, because it's like rudders in a sailboat, you know what I mean? So all of these, I believe, it picks up variations in movements. So if I can only move my eyes like this, and I don't know how to move my rudder to go high and move my rudder to go here, it's not just my eyes going up. Do you know what I mean? It's there's how sophisticated can the movement be? So yeah, if you see a cheeky little kid and they're going, like they like the tactile, they're going high, you know, and they're going, and all of this, that's what a 3-year-old should be going into, and then they start bringing their feet up and all of that kind of thing. I think that the head is just brilliant, but I'm not looking at it as muscle-based whatsoever. So to look at the skull, like I just briefly touched on before, break. It's got all these great orifices, but at the same time, it's a contained structure. So to look on a head straight on, just like we were talking about in the beginning where the eyes are pools, but at the same time, now we're going to get more complex, like I mentioned. So this is the only part, the nasal septum, not only that it's a straight, it's the only vertical line in our whole human body. If you look at Frank, he's got everything curves on him except for this bone. So I really think if it's the only bone that does that, it's significant. So if you've got a baby with a palate that doesn't come in correctly, what is that nasal septum doing? Do they have now a deviated septum? Do they, if they have microcephaly, where the head not only is smaller, but is small from behind and curves up? So this is where my concern was with the little girl that just left. And the fact that she's so, is it nearsighted when you can't see past 2 feet? Yeah, you can only see near, right? I think her orbits are shallow because the way her head is shaped almost like this compared to, the girth, that she's just that flat. And also it goes out wider to here, her head. So I think her orbits are shallow, so therefore her eyes have to be shallow, so that throws off the back of the curvature, which would make sense that her, you know this better, right? So the curvature of the back of the eye is what determines the acuity?
The curvature, yes.
Yeah, so it's, most people think it's the lenses going through the eye, but it's the way that the back of the eye curvatures in relationship to that, right? So I think that when the head shape is different, let's say, that it throws the size of the orbit or the eye socket, so therefore like the water balloons, instead of floating like this, they also start to and that throws off. So the kids with microcephaly tend to need glasses. Felden, what?
How about kids with wider set eyes and bigger?
Okay, but
similar?
when it's a wider set point, so when you've got a genetic base, right? And you'll see that too, let's say with Down syndrome. Right. So they have a wider nasal bridge, all those kind of things. There's a lot of other things. Fragile X, the eyes come out a bit more. But what happens with that also, wider set, guess where the balancing point now is? In the head, right? So just imagine if you were here, imagine your eyes just this far over a bit and what it's going to do with the balance. Does that, you know, when you're looking for vestibular input, when your head's moving around, does that make more sense when we're talking about possibility about even the cysts in the head? So now the head itself, the cranium, and again, I couldn't do a giant water balloon in him here because of the divots and the sharp edges. Where I was talking about the rudder before, the straight line going through with the nasal septum, I think that shows counterbalance. When you're working with the both ends of this, right, that tilt, do you see how it gives neurofeedback as to where the head would be tilting? Does that make sense? So I'll pass him around, but just stick your thumb here, go through the jaw, and feel what just that little relationship does to how the head presents, right? So if you noticed, it's much more here. Do you see what I was talking about now? How he lifts the head with his eyes, right? So that's why when he's doing a certain things, especially where I'm there trying to work on extension, where normally the eye would go and float out, almost like there's a string, I think that's where what he's doing is he's actually still trying to lift the head up with the eyes. So what he was doing during the lesson is he's like this. So he's like holding the head up with his eyes. So to do all, and so what people were seeing was the eyes do this because he's not used to the cranium, the processing of the head coming off the eye. I'm just guessing, but it's kind of weird being the, quote, the professional and the mom all at the same time. But so, but I want you to feel that this tilt coming around off of the spine. This is a really good indicator because if you look too at the anatomy of it, the head is on ball and socket. So the head should be able to float all the way around. And that's where I believe this force, and I don't think I'm going to get you to feel it this segment. We can try. If you start tilting that head right, you will actually feel the gyroscope starting to work. The way that the head just starts, it's a real neat force. But basically, I would need to work with someone's head for a good hour for me to get the sensation starting to happen and see if we can pass the head around to see if you could feel it. But going back to the head here, what we're going to be learning today is we're going to be coming underneath here. Here meaning the mastoid processes, but just feel that scoop. Now everyone's going to have different layers of muscles and different layers of fat. There will be in the back of the head. What we won't be able to play with here today is but you can tonight at home. The neck should not go along the back of the skull. That usually means guaranteed glasses by age 6, because there should be an archway between the shoulders and the back of the head. There should be a gap where your hands naturally come under. So I'm now going to go over to actually working on a human and start talking through it that way. But what I'm looking for is there's a sharp bone in here. It looks like the top of a BMW for the radar or the antenna, and then going